Well, now we're turning our attention to that Ruga settlement controversy, and I have with me in the studio Mr. Mark Jacob, who is a legal advisor, Middle Belt Forum, a former Attorney General in Kaduna State. You're welcome to Sunrise Daily.
Thank you very much.
I also have with me in the studio Tafidan Isam Mafindi, who is a successful farmer and a cattle rearer. He is a chartered accountant, a retired civil servant, and owns one of the largest private abattoirs in the country. You're welcome to Sunrise Daily, sir.
Thank you very much.
Now, I don't know, gentlemen, what you make of this controversy. Is it needless? Let me start with you, Mr. Mafindi.
It's totally needless, because this thing did not come without a precedent. Immediately after independence, two regions set up livestock developing units. One in Iseyin, around Oyo, by the biggest Yoruba leader, Chief Obafemi Awolowo, the late memory. Then at Gidamwaya, by the late Sir Ahmadu Bello, Sardauna of Sokoto. Both places are still existing, though very little activity was taking place. I can remember when Obasanjo launched his Green Revolution, that was before Shagari, there was a move to create the river basins. And the purpose of the river basins was to make provision for large vast of land for livestock activities to thrive. Immediately after Shagari, immediately after Buhari, General Babangida set up NALDA, and a massive land clearing contracts were given all over the nation. That's why when the presidency was saying there were gazetted land, people were denying. But I stand here to say it's true. There are gazetted lands. Most of those lands were cleared during Babangida regime. And most of them belong to one river basin or the other. When Adeshina became Minister of Agric during Jonathan, I was in one corner of Nigeria doing my agricultural activity. The next thing I had was a call from Adeshina that I should come to Abuja. When I came to Abuja, he called my attention to the fact that we don't have meat in Nigeria. So we have to invest in how to generate an activity out of our livestock. Roughly, we had nothing less than 7 to 27 million cows, almost similar number of small ruminants, that's goats and rams. I can even add, we have more than 20 million rats in Nigeria. All these are livestock. Adeshina, during his own sojourn as a Minister of Agric, he introduced an idea of value chain on all that is taking place in agriculture. He introduced cassava to be converted to flour and bread. Then we were developing the livestock sector, which today metamorphosed into what is known as Ruga. Just that Ruga by name is the only thing that is new. But the activity that started during Adeshina is still what's going to happen.
Okay.
There. I'm coming, madam. We are having a government that is saying they are going to move to the next level. What is happening in meat industry today in Nigeria? Whoever is interested in meat will not like to eat 1 kilo of Nigerian meat. Because the goat is prepared by using tire, the cow is slaughtered where it's an open place, the meat is carried to the market on wheelbarrow, is marketed on a bench with the seller using broom to scare away flies. If you take this meat to America, you will not feed their dogs. With this meat we go to buy in our market. Can we continue at that level?
It's certainly a question to answer. But it would seem that all the measures that you have enumerated from the time of President Shehu Shagari hasn't worked. So indeed there were these settlements in the north and in the south of the country. The question is, why have they failed?
They didn't fail.
What failed then?
Is the civil servant. Or I can call it evil servant. Because whoever comes to power, most of them comes through one military coup or the other. And whenever they come, they don't look at the blueprint of what was taking place. They want to create jobs for the young ones, for the new friends. And that's why you see something taking place within an hour, within a twinkle of time, is discarded. And another thing coming to take its own shape. When I was with Nigerian Port Authority, I had an opportunity of storing newspaper reel for MKO Abiola. As we were discussing in his office, I told him, I said, sir, I'm from Gongola. I can introduce you to a friend of mine who is a district head who will provide you farmland. You start what you have been talking to me today. You need 200,000 hectares. He said, yes. I said, we'll make it available to you at zero cost. We are not compensating anybody. All we want you to do is to grow maize, convert this maize into cornflakes, convert this maize into, what do you call it, samovita, convert the back of the maize into animal feed, that is the cow feed, the chicken feed, all the fish feed and everything. Abiola gave me a piece of paper. I said, Tafida, sign it. I signed it like a joke. So we went to Gongola and he was introduced to a farmland.
So I'm afraid I'll have to interrupt you.
Yeah.
I'll have to take on Mr. Mark Jacob now and ask him, because you have said that this controversy is needless. You have blamed civil servants, whom you call evil servants, for lack of continuity in policy. But Mr. Mark Jacob, what's your take on this Ruga settlement controversy? Is the controversy needless in your own estimation?
I agree with the elder statesman that the controversy is needless, but on different grounds. I see the entire thing as politics, because when a government lacks what to say to its citizens, and we have seen this since 2015, that at any time the government lacks what to say to citizens on issues that are really central to governance, this issue of Fulani is brought up. It started with grazing reserves, then grazing routes, then cattle colony, then we went to the National Assembly with a certain bill that took all the time, then we're back after 4 years. We're not talking of Ruga. It's revolving around a thing that has consumed this country's unity and cohesion. And I suspect that the politicians in Nigeria, in charge of of the country today, are enjoying it. It's a distraction from the abysmal hunger and poverty that is eating up the land. And when they throw up these things, our attention is all diverted to that. Nobody is asking questions as to what is the policy drive of government, what is government going to do about poverty, what is the investment of government on roads, on infrastructure. Power is dwindling to the barest minimum. Nobody is talking about it. We're here talking of Ruga. People are dying because of the absence of very minimal health care. People are dying on our roads. Insecurity is on the increase. Today, Boko Haram has abandoned attacking civilian populations. They are now targeting the army. And nobody is discussing it. We are talking about Ruga. For me, it's all political diversion. And to add to it, the issues surrounding taking care of the Fulani cattle rearers. I'm happy the elder statesman here has said it. He owns an abattoir. And he has said it too, that the meat being transported on foot, on our roads, in our streets, to the abattoirs in the cities, is not fit for even animal consumption. From 1914, there was an attempt to even establish a ranch in this country by a British company. That ranch was established, but it folded up after some time. And the reasons were very simple. The people who are used to doing things in a certain fashion refused to adopt it. Our elder statesman here will tell you, if he agrees, that people would rather take their cows to the open market and slaughter instead of going to his abattoir that is mechanized. All because they are used to doing it in a particular fashion. When we were growing up, in my backyard in Manchok, there was a cattle ranch. It was established in 1964. That cattle ranch folded up after some time because the people responsible for running it, and he has mentioned some people, I don't want to use the same words, but the people responsible for running those things on behalf of government diverted the funds. We have records that show that in 1965 there was another ranch in Kaduna State. That ranch has also after some time folded up because people giving government money to run these things normally divert them. And then they take the land, share it amongst themselves. They are here in this country, they are big men, and they know what we are talking about. So this one that is being discussed today is actually just providing money for those in government. It's not intended to serve the ordinary man. It's not true. Now,
are those your fears? Because what has happened now is that in recent times, we have seen conflicts between farmers and herdsmen. Allegedly, we have been told that this conflict is between farmers and herdsmen. And so we're now beginning to see governments trying to take steps to correct it. They say, oh, it's because, our population has grown. We have taken over cattle routes. These herdsmen who were used to being nomadic in their way of life are still nomadic. And it's not good for the cattle. It's not good for business. It's not good for even us who are going to be the end consumers of the meat that they sell. So it is high time we found a way to settle these people. And they're saying states who are interested, you can indicate interest. That's what they say.
That's what they say.
Can indicate interest, and the federal government will come and build the settlements for this people. I don't know. Isn't that what we're currently discussing? Isn't that the solution that the federal government has brought up? Isn't that what is causing controversy?
Sincerely,
why is it causing controversy?
I'll say to you very very clearly. Government is ignoring existing data and history in all this discussion. Studies sponsored by Ahmadu Bello University abound in the archives. One of them, which I have read, indicated that any attempt, all the attempts by government to settle the transcended Fulani has never worked. And they give reasons for the failure of such projects.
Which include?
Which include the absence of involved people, those Fulani who believe that it is their tradition, it is their way of life to move from place to place. You don't involve them in evolving these policies. So you go and build a place. They have their reasons for moving around.
But aren't we beginning to hear MACBAN, which is supposed to be the umbrella body for these people, getting involved in the process?
My uncle here. Those organizations are elitist organizations who go to government houses to discuss. They are not at all part of the 20% of the Fulani population that moves around. The Fulani, only 20% of them are the itinerant ones. Most of them are settled and semi-settled. They move according to the seasons. If it is dry season, they want to be in this part of the country. If it is the rainy season, because of the health and protection and safety of their animals, they like to be in a certain location. And they have studied the topography very well, and they know where they ought to be. Now, if you come and say you want to lock them up in a particular location, it won't work. You only provide land for elites to go take government money and share the land. And I'm talking from experience. A particular location in Kaduna today is called Ruga. That location was carved out for cattle rearing only. And I have looked at the Gazette. As Attorney General, I saw those documents. There was a policy around how the grazing reserve will be managed by a committee. If you are going into that place, the committee will give you a license. You go there and stay for a maximum of 2 weeks. If you want to stay longer, they renew it for you. Today, that place has been changed. We now have big buildings. Individuals who are Fulani have left their normal places of abode. They have gone there, they have carved out thousands of hectares for themselves, and they now call it their own land. They are now building houses, they are now building companies, they are now building different things, and thereby defeating the essence of the reserve. The essence was to make sure that if Fulanis migrate from maybe the northernmost part of northern Nigeria to come for grazing in southern Kaduna, which has more fertile land and grass, in the season that is conducive, they will have over 40,000 hectares of land upon which to graze. But they are not supposed to build houses there. Today, that thing has been defeated. That program has been defeated because people from all over the country have gone there and they have taken over the land. And they are building. They are building, constructing houses, constructing their children's houses, getting married. They now change their place of origin to Ruga. So we have a problem, and this is what people want to replicate, especially those in government. They want to be able to go to Benue, go to Owerri, go to anywhere and own land. It's not for this 20% of the Fulani that have cattle that are genuinely herders. They are moving around because they study the topography, the effect of rainy season on their cattle in the southwest. They will move away and go back to the north during the dry season and come back to the south. And those things were happening without any friction in the past. The frictions were very little, and they were largely locally settled. If the cattle stray into your farmland, the district head or the leader of the Fulani will go and meet the local chief. They will settle it amicably. They were never this large-scale attack on communities, settled communities. People just sleeping, others come and surround them and kill them. I have seen, and I've tried to make this distinction, that there's a big difference between those who are genuinely herders and those who are the killers of the people in the Middle Belt particularly. They are different. These people who go surround a village and they don't come with cattle anyway, surround a village in the dead of the night, kill people, destroy the town, and disappear into thin air. This has been going on for years now, and they are never apprehended. These people are different from these people, the 20% of the Fulani that are genuine cattle rearers. And if the government will allow each cattle rearer to approach communities where they want to settle and discuss with communities, these issues will be resolved.
So do you agree then, because I saw you nodding, Mr. Mafindi, with in agreement, it would seem, with some of the things that he said. Do you agree on the cause then of the controversy, and how would you suggest the federal government handles it so that the, let's say, the thorny part of it can be dealt with?
All this you call controversy, they are created by the Nigerian media. There is no controversy between the cattle herdsman and the farmer. We live in symbiotic support system of life. All of us, we are the byproducts of all the sufferings that the common man suffers to meet his life and ends.
You say it is created by the Nigerian media.
Yes.
The Nigerian media did not you know, conjure this from thin air.
You are part of the Nigerian media, so let me speak.
So let me bring this to the fore. We heard from the Benue State government. They were the ones who raised an alarm. You know, however you choose to qualify the alarm.
Who's Benue governor? Is it not Autumn?
Well, they said that
Autumn was the treasurer of People's Democratic Party. I was a member of National Executive of People's Democratic Party. I should tell you who Autumn is.
No, I don't think that is important to the Ruga.
Very important.
To the Ruga controversy. Because they say that the federal government said that this policy is supposed to be in states that have volunteered. They claim that they have not volunteered and that the Ruga plan, or the plan to build Rugas in Benue State, goes contrary to their ranching laws. They say that they believe that ranching will be better than this Ruga settlement business.
Yes, they have a privilege not to accept it. Because it's not sent to a place that is not accepting it. So let Benue not be part of it. But let me tell you, by 1990, when we started moving to Abuja, I had colleagues in my office, Nigerian Port Authority, whom we were begging to come and buy plots in Abuja. They refused. By 1992, when Babangida moved in properly, the queue to come to Abuja overlook all the problem. They say the airport is near a hill, so people will start having accidents. So up to now, we have not seen one accident. Please, in Nigeria, people dance to whatever they think is going to give them a voice. The Middle Belt is one. It's not different. I am from Jalingo, Taraba State. I can claim to be a Middle Belter, but I'm not one. Because the Middle Belt is no longer a geographical location. It's more than that. So let's keep that matter aside. Whatever you see happening by people banditry, killing sedentary people, killing travelers, kidnapping, hijacking, they are not done by Fulani. They are not.
Who is it done by?
Let them find out. That's why we have the most trained security. We have the best security in Africa. Well, if you go to Bosnia, where Nigerian police, army were handling world peace, everyone got a medal.
We'll take a break at this moment. When we come back, we'll be asking how it is that this can be handled carefully, because we also heard from the Nobel laureate there that this has the ability to be explosive. And so far, so good. It would seem that all it has been doing is gathering the flames to actually blow up. In just a moment, please stay with us. About the settlement of herdsmen, also known as the Ruga controversy, was to have with us in the studio Mr. Mark Jacob, who's a legal advisor, Middle Belt Forum, and Tafidan Issa Mafindi, who's a successful farmer and cattle rearer. We'll now go to Lagos now and take questions from my colleagues there, Chamberlain and I.
Well, yes, let me just a follow-up on what Tafida had said about this being created by the media. I mean, we just heard the Plateau State governor talking about the reason why the federal government is coming in to assist. Then we also do have several other cases where the government has given reasons why they actually need to come in. So if you say it's being created by the media, isn't that also making it a little bit difficult for us to face the reality concerning how we're going to solve this problem, getting to the bottom of it?
I have a reason of saying the idea of cattle breeders and farmers having clash in Nigeria. I said it's a media hoax, and I still maintain it. Because it's only in Nigeria that you have somebody who will go on radio, He knows that his boundary is no longer one community or one local government or one state or one country. And he continued talking as if he has a right to draw Nigeria to the dogs. And at the end of the day, if you go to wherever you see a farmer, you see a cattleman, they go to the same market. The farmer allows the cattleman to fertilize his land, and the cattleman eats the byproducts of the farmers after harvest. So why does the conflict start? It's just because some people feel that is a soft landing place. And let it make it very clear. The Fulani man is not an outspoken somebody who bothers to continue by media to be talking whenever time for talking comes in. When you start talking people like Professor Wole Soyinka, we were all born when the Civil War was going on. We know his antecedent that time. Even last week, he has a problem of seat in the aircraft. There are some people whose life is really surrounded by one controversy or the other. But stop dragging the Fulani into conflict with the farmer. He is not. We are the only single tribe that moves in with 200 million naira worth of investment in the bush, with no police station to take care of us, with no road to provide us joy for air-conditioned vehicles. And we continue rendering the service to this country.
Let me just ask you this before you proceed. My apologies.
When the government said,
let me jump into Fidel, if you can hear me.
We are doing into an activity.
Yeah, pardon me. Let me just butt in and ask you this question. Given the way all of this is playing out, and for those who think, well, you could call it a misunderstanding of what the purpose is. I mean, you also heard Mr. Mark there talk about how this is being politicized. How would you suggest we approach this to get a solution to this?
Go on, sir.
Is a question to me?
Yes.
I've not heard it properly.
Saying, what do you suggest as a solution to this?
The solution is let's move forward. The principal actor of this livestock value chain is Dr. E.A. Adesina, and he is today the president of African Development Bank. He is right now looking at the television or watching us. He knows that his idea has come of age because he tried to work on two things. One, cassava. We are the biggest producer in the world and exporter of zero. In the process of livestock, we are the best meat-eating country in the world, and we process nothing for us to eat.
So let me quickly come in here. You talked about, I think you heard Mr. Mark Jacob talk about how the land, I think you made reference to it, the lands that were earmarked for this cattle rearing business. Now, Mr. Mark Jacob talked about how some of the lands that were earmarked have been now carved out by elitist groups in such a way that what it was meant for has now been defeated. Now, these are the fears that people have seen. Well, how will I put it now? These are the experiences of people in the times past. And they still harbor those fears moving forward, especially with things like identity, especially with things about their lands being taken over. How do you suggest that these fears be addressed with the controversy that this has finally thrown up?
The person experiencing this fear, when he was Attorney General of Kaduna State, he had all the powers to take over any case be it whatever, criminal case, or institute a criminal case against these people and recover that land. But nothing was done. So let's not use the 20 minutes we have to continue debating on things we personally didn't do, that we think other people will come and do it and solve the problem of Nigeria. Let's move forward. Today, if we go to the Nigerian universities, 80% of graduates of agriculture are either security men in the banks, tally clerk, or it was keke napep drivers. They don't have any opportunity in the livestock industry, in the agricultural industry. Let's move agriculture or meat processing forward.
That is, you're talking from the perspective of business now. And some people will say, you know, how much intervention has government had in your own business? And you are a private farmer. But let me quickly give Mr. Mark Jacob the opportunity to respond to, you know, he has said you had the opportunity as Attorney General to do something about the situation which you saw. Why didn't you do anything about it?
Maybe he didn't listen to me very well. I said, as at the time I was in government, we saw the documentation on how the grazing reserve was created and what it was meant for. And as at that time, what I'm talking about had not occurred. These developments are things that recently happened in the last 2-3 years. I was Attorney General 12 years ago, so it's not a recent matter. But within the last 3-4 years, people have taken over land that was reserved for cattle rearers. It's physically going, a lot of construction is going on there. And it's been transformed from a grazing reserve to an urban settlement. And that is the challenge. It's real, it's not fear. It's real, it's happening. And let me just say quickly that the elite, particularly in the North, must wake up and save the North. All these problems are generated by them. They sit in the comfort of their houses in London and Abuja and create problems for the farmer. And maybe the harder, because a lot of the cattle that is being moved across the roads and in the lands belongs to them.
That's true.
They own these cattle. Instead of investing their wealth in how to take care of these cattle like the elder here is doing, provide a conducive environment. He said he has so many hectares of land in Lagos where he houses and fattens his cows. Why is it that the rich ones that have most of these cattle don't want to do like him? It's because it's cheaper to let the cattle roam around and pay little to 2 or 3 herdsmen that would suffer rain and sunshine and pay very little. It is expensive, like he has said, to do it. And I think where government needs to come in is to create an enabling atmosphere. Empower people like him to expand their business.
Well, it's a fine place to leave it.
It's a private business.
We still know
individuals should be empowered.
We still know that government still has a lot of explaining to do. Let us hope that we'll be able to have a more robust conversation, perhaps with a little more time on this matter. But gentlemen, we have to thank you very much for coming on Sunrise Daily this morning. We've been speaking with Mr. Mark Jacob, legal advisor, Middle Belt Forum, former Attorney General, Kaduna State, and Mr. Tafidan Issa Mafindi, who's a successful farmer and cattle rearer. He's a chartered accountant, retired civil servant, and owns one of the largest private abattoirs in Nigeria. Thank you so much for coming on Sunrise Daily this morning and sharing your thoughts with us.
Thank you so much.
The program continues in a moment. Please stay with us.